This is TWiT.
The FBI has asked Apple to unlock another iPhone.
Oh, yeah.
And so who knows what this is going to mean. What did you guys conclude over on MacBreak Weekly?
Well, Apple was incensed because Attorney General Barr had the temerity to say, oh, Apple's not helping us at all. And they listed all the things they've done to help the FBI, including the iCloud account information and so forth. But they said, and I think quite rightly so, at the last paragraph of their statement, it's a bad idea to have a backdoor in any encryption. It's just going to give it to the bad guys as well as the FBI, and we just don't think it's a good idea. We don't want to do it. So there were great pains to say, no, we're helping the FBI. We're helping them in every way we can, but we can't give them that encrypted information. We have no way of breaking it, and we don't think it's a good idea to put something in there that can.
And so for what it's worth, I wanted to sort of – I know I've confused some people when I've talked about how it's obviously possible for Apple to add a silent listener to an iMessage group. That's very different from the FBI coming to them and saying, we want you to decrypt this phone. In this current case, this is the guy who shot up the military base 6 weeks ago down in Florida, who actually he had two iPhones and he shot one of them. One of them has a bullet through it. So that may be a little more tricky to recover if Apple even could. But the point is, since the Saeed Farouk event that we had in 2016, I guess actually the shooting was in 2015 and then the whole issue happened, kind of boiled over in 2016. Since then, Apple has further strengthened the security of the iPhone system. And I am absolutely sure that they're telling us the truth, and the FBI, when they say, we designed a system that we cannot get into. So, I mean, no, there is the iCloud backup stuff, which sort of creates a little bit of softness to the whole thing. But in terms of the phone itself, I'm sure that there is absolutely nothing Apple can do. So unlike this, the sort of like the question that the other issue that we have of whether an individual can be compelled to disclose something that they know, like a password, in order to unlock their phone. Is that testimonial or not? And as we know, courts have been going back and forth on this, and ultimately that's the kind of question that may end up getting pushed up to the highest court that we have in the U.S. for a decision. But this issue, if the FBI and Apple are going to face off, this is not something that the Supreme Court can, rule on, because it may very well be that Apple has in fact, I'm sure it is, they've produced a system they cannot decrypt. And so what that says is that what would be required is that the U.S. law would end up being pushed, being changed to make it unlawful for commercial encryption systems to be sold in the U.S. that don't have some means for law enforcement to get in. And on that count, I am 100% aligned with like all of the crypto experts who say there's no way to do that without weakening the system. So again, I wanted to make the point that that's very different from an Apple negotiated real-time, essentially a wiretap on iMessage, which they could do if they wanted to. In this situation, I'm sure we've got phones that notwithstanding the various other corner cases that we've talked about, that Apple cannot get into. And it'll be really interesting to see if such legislation happens. I'm skeptical that is going to happen, because the fact is it really does weaken crypto in a way that I don't think it's clear you can fix. And Apple is sort of a special case. It's also probably not a broad enough perspective to keep talking about them, because they really have an iron grip on our phones. I mean, we're sort of renting them from Apple because Apple absolutely decides what the devices will do and won't do, which, of course, is why some people like to jailbreak their phones in order to get back some of the control that Apple has designed out of the system that we're using sort of with their permission, because, I mean, they really are tightly tethered to Apple. So anyway, I just sort of wanted to touch on that. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. I mean, as far as I know, this issue is pending. The FBI General Counsel wrote a letter to the Apple General Counsel saying, we need help decrypting these phones. The General Counsel replied, we'd like to help you. We really would. We'd help you in all these other kinds of ways, but the phones are designed with our customers' privacy paramount, and we're allowed to do that, so we have. And the question will be, is that ever going to change? That commercial companies would not be allowed to do that. And we know the arguments are there's lots of non-commercial solutions for encrypting stuff if that happens, and that would be a good point to be raised. So boy, it'll be interesting to see whether this ends up getting legislated in 2020.
The only way I could see that this would happen is if they decided to criminalize encryption to the point that if you had it, if you used it, you would go to jail. Because you're right, they can't stop somebody from using Signal or some other open source solution. The math is out there. But they could say it's a violation. It's against the law to use something that has crypto. If we can't see it, then you're breaking the law. And that
So they could say they could say that it is against the law for a U.S. citizen to withhold information that would allow law enforcement to decrypt their phone. Now,
no. I'm saying they could say to you, Steve Gibson, you may not use encryption. That in and of itself is a crime. Criminalize encryption.
I knew that's what you meant, but that seemed like way far out there.
It's the only way you could do it, because even if they said to Apple, Samsung, everybody, okay, my phone is no longer encrypted, I could still use Signal or some other, or write my own. I could still use crypto, because crypto's well understood. It's out there.
And so that's why I had backed away from that to the position of it's against the law for a citizen to refuse to provide the information they have to law enforcement to see into their crypto,
including your own. That's right. Yes,
exactly. And of course, the one glitch there is, in this particular case, we have a dead terrorist who is unable to divulge the information. So, and of course, users could still choose to go to prison rather than divulge what is in their mind, their ability to decrypt their device, if what's in there is really so bad that the prison is the better outcome. I mean, we're really in a mess. This is really a mess, and it will only be if somehow the decision is finally made that companies have the right to encrypt in a way that the government cannot see. And boy, that's difficult to square. I mean, it's just hard to imagine a world where not just the U.S. but the U.K. that's even more aggressive about seeing into their citizens' data. It's just really, for me, fascinating.